And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Richard C. Hoagland. His website, again, is theothersideofmidnight.com. What days do you broadcast, Richard?
Saturday and Sunday, 9 p.m. Pacific for 3 hours, 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific, and you can do your own time conversions for any other time zone.
Excellent. Now, back in November 1969, Apollo 12 landed on the moon.
Wait. Let's not pass up the samples yet, okay? I know we only have a few minutes.
All right.
But this is crucial, because here's the Avi Loeb challenge. Avi Loeb is probably the world's recognized leader now as a mainstream, incredibly credentialed Harvard scientist who has conducted the first successful analysis from underneath the Pacific of extraterrestrial technology. When you combine what they look like, the little droplets that he brought up, with their ion probe and microphotographic analyses of the elements, lithium, beryllium, iron without nickel, uranium, and John's analysis that this is part of a nuclear technology. Obviously, somebody lost something incredibly sophisticated, or it was sent to us as a message. But that was only a few, micrograms of material. If I'm right, if what I've discovered in these thin sections of the rocks from the astronauts is correct, we've got 840-plus pounds of extraterrestrial machinery embedded in the moon rocks right here on Earth that are half a century old. And all NASA has to do is invite Avi in through the front door with his team, take rocks at random, analyze them, use all the incredible sophisticated microtechnologies that a half a century has now bought us from the time that they were collected by the astronauts on the moon, and we will know from their composition, from their, metallic elements, from their, alloys, from their circuit designs, from the geometry, from the micro wires inside, from the chips, from everything we're seeing in these photographs that I'm showing you tonight, expanded by factors of 1 million. We will know the history of ancient ET technological civilizations that once lived all over the moon for millions and millions of years. It's right within our grasp. We don't have to spend, if we didn't want to, another dime in going back to the moon, but of course we're going to. Not only is NASA going, the Chinese are going, the Russians are going, independent entrepreneurs are going.
India's going.
India's already gone.
Yeah.
And they're going to go back. And Elon Musk, a private enterprise, love that term, private enterprise mission beginning in 3 years. And he's part of the Artemis lunar program to take NASA astronauts, NASA citizens, international astronauts, down to the surface of the moon to collect more samples at the lunar poles and bring them. We're at the edge of the revolution, George, and Avi Loeb can go down in history as the guy who kicked off that revolution, and all he has to do is use the same techniques on the moon rocks that he used on his samples from the South Pacific, and we're in a totally different and incredibly enriching, historical era where we stop killing each other and we look upward and wonder, with real science behind us, who the hell is out there.
We could only pray. We can only pray. Now, Apollo 12.
Well, we can do more than pray. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you and your audience tonight is I need the help of your audience. You have an audience measured in millions, right?
Yes, I do.
All they have to do is all send Avi Loeb a text or an email and say, be there or be square. Propose the Avi Loeb challenge. Prove Hoagland wrong. Remember, all of science is not about finding things, but proving the other guy's theory about the things are wrong.
Why not prove you right?
Well, inevitably, if I'm right, the science, the independent science that Loeb could do on, remember, 842 pounds of rock. And you don't even have to destroy them with this technology today to see what's inside. It's called three-dimensional X-ray tomography. Remember when they slide patients into that big metal tube in a hospital?
I hate that tube.
Well, for claustrophobic people, yeah. But it non-destructively looks through you, and with AI computer technology, it now creates three-dimensional scans down to the level of microns, if desired, of the inside of human beings or any other, materials exposed to that technology without destroying them. So NASA could subject its 800-plus pounds of samples to this kind of non-destructive three-dimensional imaging. It could find those rocks that have the biggest, fragments of ancient ET machines and technology still within them. It could then analyze those with current state-of-the-art techniques, and we're light years down the road to A, proving the Apollo missions really did go to the moon, B, proving that they found and brought back to Earth incredible treasure troves of ET technology, which we can back engineer, and C, we might even find in this melange microdots or fragments of ancient lunar libraries that we can decode again right here on Earth. This is so big, George, that 2 hours is not big enough and long enough to describe everything that this is going to mean.
If you're correct, I don't think it was left behind on purpose, or they would have left better samples, don't you think?
No. If the moon has been inhabited like the solar system for millions of years, which is our model, when you smash and smash and smash, you get fragments and fragments and fragments. From the samples that I've analyzed so far, we're looking at fragments of ordinary human-scale machines that have been smashed and then incorporated in these melted and smashed together rocks. But we're also looking at little teeny tiny fragments of what we call nanotechnology, which is little tiny fully formed machines on a scale of millionths of an inch. George, what does that mean?
Well, that's pretty dramatic.
Well, what does it mean? It means conscious technology, conscious ETs, conscious aliens, conscious predecessors of the human race existed in a range of sizes, all the way from our size, our scale, down to the microscopic. This is not a small revolution. This is the whole game. This is game, match, set. This is everything that everybody listening to this show tonight has ever wished for about NASA's missions, about the discussions of UFOs, of ETs, of aliens. It's all right there under Houston, waiting for us to analyze it in teams independently led, to start with, by Dr. Avi Loeb.
And maybe it's not ET, maybe it's us from the past with high technology.
You got it. You've absolutely got it, because we never looked. What if you could find here and there the same kind of examples in smashed breccias found here on Earth, because they are found. But no one has ever imagined that they could find technology, because when geologists look at rocks, what do they see? They see rocks, right? Remember that old cliche, to a carpenter, everything looks like a nail?
And a rock is a rock.
Except in this case, in 3 cases that I put up there, again, just at random, there's little imprisoned fragments of high technology, micro machines, fragments of circuits, whatever, and they're all accessible to humanity if Avi Loeb will pick up the challenge. And this audience, all they have to do is send Avi Loeb text and email saying, for damn sake, go look.
Does he know you yet?
Say again?
Does he know you yet?
Oh, we've been in touch years ago. He claimed that he couldn't come on my show because it was too late. And I've had everybody trying to get him to call me once we've, discovered this. And so far the phone has not rung. But I guarantee you Avi Loeb is a brilliant politician as well as a scientist. Look at what he's done since 2018 when he came to light in terms of Oumuamua. If he doesn't pick up this challenge, we'll know two things. Either he is totally uncurious, which I wouldn't buy for a nanosecond, or something is inhibiting him, something is directing him from above or from below, the deep state, to go nowhere near this, which means if he doesn't pick up the challenge, we will assemble other scientists to do it because these rocks belong to all American taxpayers. They're our rocks. We own them. We can take NASA to court and force them to analyze these micro nanotechnological machines and come up with the answers ourselves. But as a one colleague to another, I'd like Avi Loeb to be part of this revolution, to lead the charge, and to build on his amazing work in the South Pacific by making real an absolutely mind-blowing and history-changing revolution right in our laps. And remember what's at stake. The Middle East tonight, Ukraine, all the other wars, the potential of Putin threatening us with nukes. Everything changes if science can prove that we are not alone. And it begins tonight with this audience pressuring Loeb to pick up the Avi Loeb challenge.
Good point. Richard Hoagland. All right, now tell me about this lunar stone circle you found.
Well, you know that old joke about ketchup?
No, not really.
Life is like a ketchup bottle.
Oh, okay. I've heard that.
First none will come, and then a lot will. Well, we've got a lot of incredible revolutionary stuff going on because literally a week ago, in the wake of a successful Indian mission, which you mentioned a few minutes ago, the Chandrayaan-3 mission, suddenly people all over the world began looking at the successful prior Indian mission, which was called Chandrayaan-2, which left a lunar orbiter still orbiting the moon with fuel and instrumentation, radios, and cameras. And people began looking at the orbital imagery of the moon from the Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft, which is still in orbit even though the Chandrayaan-2 lander, crashed 4 years ago. And some of those people, in particular, a guy named Marty McGuire, he's a citizen scientist. He called himself the backyard astronomer from Pennsylvania. He's got a website, which we're going to post on the other side of midnight for our Saturday show. I want to tell everybody, if you think this is exciting, wait till you get 3 hours of more photographs, more analysis, more discussion by the Enterprise mission team as to what all this means, and more outlines of what Avi Loeb can do to basically rescue humanity. I mean, this is what's in Avi's hands. He can do the science that will rescue humanity from going nuts by thinking deludedly that we're all alone.
But can't you get this done without him if you had to?
Of course, I can put together my own team. But I want Avi to be part of the party because he was brave enough and bright enough to stick his neck out of Oumuamua, and he was the second scientist on Earth to claim that Oumuamua, the interstellar object that zipped through the solar system back in 2018,
was artificial.
I was the first, and I know things about Oumuamua that Avi Loeb has not imagined yet, which are testable, again, in his laboratories at Harvard, and all he has to do is talk to me, and we will both go down historically as people who cared enough to uncover for humanity the very best.
You should post his email address on your website for people.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
remember, it's a Saturday show, which I'm calling the Stonehenge on the Moon, because that takes us to photograph number 8 of my litany tonight. Marty McGuire, a few weeks ago, opened up a Reddit thread where he posted orbital imagery of the Apollo sites taken not by an American spacecraft, but by an Indian spacecraft. And I've got an example in item number 8. On the left-hand side is an Apollo 12 Alan Bean black and white picture of the Apollo 12 landing site with the lunar module there on the rim of the crater. You can see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the right-hand side is a close-up from the Chandrayaan-2 lunar orbiter of the same site. There's the bottom of the LEM with the long shadow in the left. Look at what's going on in the bottom right of that image. What do you see?
Bottom right.
Bottom right of the two-frame composite.
Image number 8.
Yep. Over on the right-hand corner. Well, skip to the next picture. This is an enlargement with the red arrow. What do you see?
There's some kind of object down there.
It's an incredible circle of moon rocks with a big one in the center. Look at the shadows. That's how you know that it's the biggest, the tallest. And the alignment of the rocks is pointing toward that much bigger object in the upper right with the red arrow. Now look at image number 10, okay? This is now a close-up showing the alignments between multiple.
These are the ones with the green arrows and the one.
Arrows, yeah. They're all pointing at that object in the upper right. And if you look at the inset in the left-hand corner of the same frame, image number 10, what do you see there?
A huge crater.
No. The inset with the white arrow coming out of it. It's a box. It's an orthogonal geometric planar box.
You're talking about that white-looking thing?
Yes. Look at it. It's got flat sides. It's got straight edges. It's got shaped geometry. It's a box. That's a photograph, an enlargement of a beam photograph, an astronaut photograph taken from the surface from up in number 8.
You mean like it was left behind, that kind of a box?
Exactly. It's an archive. It's a library. It's a time capsule either left for human beings by aliens, ETs, George, which from the moon rocks we already know exist, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Or, your words a few moments ago, it was left to us as an archive, a time capsule from our own ancient ancestors, from a previous high-tech civilization here on Earth, which went to the moon, found all this evidence, and left a cairn, a marker, a library to contain the information for their dimmed ancient descendants that would someday come back to the moon like we now have.
Ancient India texts talked about flying machines, Vimanas.
Vimanas, yes. I mean, again, this is not a tiny revolution, and we're going to be talking about this for 3 hours on this coming Saturday night, the night of the eclipse. And it's very ironic that we're going to do a moon breakthrough story on the day that we have another total lunar eclipse.
And that's the night I'm in Columbus, so I will toast you, my friend. We're going to take a quick break with Richard C. Hoagland and come back and take the rest of your phone calls, those of you on hold, so stand by. Richard's website, again, is linked up at coasttocoastam.com, theothersideofmidnight.com. He said he will post an email of Dr. Avi Loeb, so you can send him a little message and just tell him, partner up with Richard Hoagland, and let's get to the bottom of this. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. George Norrie with Richard C. Hoagland. Let's go right to the phones. East of the Rockies, Brian in Indianapolis is with us. Hey, Brian, welcome.
Hey, George, how are you this morning?
All is well.
Awesome, man. Hey, Richard, good to talk to you, man. Them pictures are just outstanding.
Well, they're real. They're NASA's. We haven't touched them. We couldn't touch them. They're electronic. You know, all we got to do is get Loeb to help us. And if you want Avi Loeb's email address, just Google. He's got several at Harvard. We don't have to post it until Saturday, but you can just Google his name and Harvard, and you'll get his email. If this audience starts sending literally hundreds of thousands of emails, there's no way he can't accept the challenge, and then everything changes.
I agree. Go ahead, Bri.
Hey, I got 2 quick questions. Got no time is short. Question number 1, you were on Art Bell way back in the 90s. You had a conference maybe out in California. You had a guy from NASA, Ron Johnston, and a geologist with the last name of Hicks on there.
Ron Nicks.
The
Nicks.
station ran a article or a piece on you at night that they were kind of making fun of you, but they asked Alan Bean about what he thought about what you guys were presenting, and he said that you guys needed to get new glasses. So my question is, have you ever gotten a chance to ask Alan Bean about him saying that with all these pictures and stuff that you have him in the photographs of all these structures and these spheres on the moon? And question number 2, real quick. I got these binocular telescopes that are just awesome. I was looking at the supermoon last week. Can you explain what the colors around the edges of the moon are? I know it's kind of off topic a little bit, but what are the colors around the edges of the moon? What causes that? And I'll take my answers off the air.
Okay.
Those are light prisms.
Let me answer his first question first, because ironically, Bean is the guy who took the surface pictures of this lunar Stonehenge. Alan Bean, we held a press conference at the National Press Club back in the 1990s showing, much more primitive versions of our research at that point. And the interesting thing is that right after our press conference, Alan Bean started doing color paintings of the moon. There's one I've laid out in item number 3 tonight of my images. The upper left-hand panel is a color painting that Bean did of the Surveyor Crater landing site, from his walk on the moon with Pete Conrad back in 1969 in November. And in the upper right-hand corner, he's painted this lunar Stonehenge from one of the photographs with all of the amazing geometry as seen from the surface. I was never able to talk to Bean. I only heard distantly, from people that knew him. But I'm telling you that I think Bean was under prescription by the military not to tell the truth about what's there. So he decided to do it in a very, what I call Emily Dickinson fashion. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant through his paintings. Because when you compare his paintings to what the moon looks like on the Apollo photographs, like right there in item number 3, also items 1 and 2, look at those. Those are all real colors. All we've done is increase the saturation of the official Apollo imagery from the astronauts from the moon. I think all of this has been under incredible deep security prohibition. Now is the time when the truth is coming out. And unfortunately, Alan Bean died a while ago, so we can't share in the joy of showing this to humankind, but he certainly is here in spirit.
He was a great naval officer as well. He passed away 5 years ago. Mark in Ohio. Go ahead, Mark. You're on with Richard Hoagland.
Oh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. I have to do a shout-out right away to Corny, okay, because this is Mike Papa Hansen, and he'll know what I mean. 95 Bravo. That was my MOS, MP, military police, and Fort McClellan, Alabama. But anyway, and a pleasure to talk to you guys, and big fan of Richard C., okay, from the Art Bell days. And I have a simple question, and we always struggle with the Big Bang Theory, okay? That's one thing. And my father, who was a Carl Sagan fan, and it's like everybody wanted to know, Richard, what is nothing? If you could make it to the end of the universe, what is nothing? If you could pop that bubble, I know and Tommy's smart, and all you guys are smart. It's a forever expanding. What is nothing, Richard? And I'll shut up.
Well, we live in a hyperdimensional universe of multiple universes. So our reality, our 3D reality, is only a part of a much bigger reality. Did you hear the other day that the new data from Webb is pushing back the date of the Big Bang creation of our 3D universe twice as far? The canonical age, the current age that everybody says the universe is 13.7 billion years old, right?
Exactly.
Well, scientists now, based on the latest Hubble data, which is basically galaxies that are much more mature and look like our Milky Way, much further back in time than they should, they're claiming now that the newest Webb data is actually making the universe twice as old.
Oh, my gosh.
28.7 billion years old compared to 13.6 or 7. So we're surrounded by revolutions. The only thing that's keeping us on the ground is this damn deep state security prohibition. They don't want us to know anything. And that's why this Avi Loeb challenge is so critical, because if this audience sends enough emails, Avi will respond, we'll do this together, and we blow the doors off of a 70-plus year cover-up.
Or even one good email, Richard will do it.
Yep. Let's
go to Catherine in British Columbia, Canada. Hi, Kath.
Hi, George. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Catherine.
I have this burning desire to know this. The moon rocks, you know how if you have anything you stick on the counter, it will get room temperature or whatever. It takes on the temperature of the room.
Yep.
Now, these rocks, did they come with any sort of temperature? Were they hot, cold? Will they keep a temperature of any kind? Thank you.
Interesting question.
What a really interesting question. Well, they will take up the temperature of what their surroundings are. So currently, most of the 842 pounds of moon rocks are kept at liquid nitrogen temperatures in nitrogen in vaults under Houston so that nothing changes. Because environmental changes go up not linearly but logarithmically with temperature. So if you keep something at liquid nitrogen temperatures, it basically will stay that way forever. But when they bring the samples into the lab and they cut thin sections, they obviously warm up to the temperatures of the laboratory, which here on Earth is in the low 70s, upper 60s, right? That's not enough to change the composition of the rocks in any way. The key is you don't want them exposed to Earth's air, to any microbial contamination, whatever, and they take multiple steps to keep that from happening. So these rocks are as good as the day the astronauts brought them back. And again, Loeb can be the guy to lead the charge and prove everything I've said tonight and 1,000 times more, which we'll talk about on Saturday on the other side of midnight when we do our Lunar Stonehenge program at 9 o'clock Pacific.
Final calls. First-time caller Mike in California. Hi, Michael. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. I wanted to ask Richard a quick question here. I've heard some stuff about space peanuts. Can you comment on that?
Space what? What was that, Mike? You broke up a little bit.
Space peanut.
Space female?
Space peanut.
Spell it for us.
Peanuts.
Did you ever hear that, Richard?
I'm not getting the word he's saying.
Space Inu.
Nope, haven't heard of it.
What is it, Mike?
Thank you.
Michael, what is it? Well, he hung up. He's gone.
I think he was pulling our leg.
I don't know what it was.
Or he's an agent.
Well, we get some of those.
We certainly do. Boy, do we.
Let's get Chris in Canton, Ohio. Hey, Christopher, go ahead.
Yes, I'm an amateur astronomer. I belong to a group of astronomers.
Great.
And I want to ask you, tell me what you can, what I've noticed about helium-3. 2 years ago, I was in the Rocky Mountains with Arlo Guthrie with his telescope. He says, hey, Chris, come here, look at this. What is that? I said, that dust coming up from the moon. Somebody's up there doing some mining. So do we have the mineral rights of helium-3? And it looks like to me all these countries are going to be going to the moon mining it. Can you enlighten me on this subject?
Well, the 1967 Outer Space Treaty forbid nation-states from owning anything on the moon, real estate, samples, rocks, ET artifacts, whatever. However, the treaty does not prohibit private enterprise corporations from going to the moon, staking a claim, bringing back samples, and mining whatever they can find. So that's the loophole that interest in the moon is going to drive towards scavenging helium-3 from the regolith, bringing it back, and someday using it in nuclear reactors here on Earth that are safe and environmentally clean because they produce no radioactive byproducts.
Is the moon loaded with helium-3, Richard?
Well, the surface regolith, because it's been exposed to what's called the solar wind, and the helium-3 is coming from the sun, from the solar wind, and is trapped. Now, of course, my extrapolation of the science is that by the time we get there to do the mining, it'll be obsolete, because the real incredible high-tech super technologies that we need that are hyperdimensional, that are not nuclear, that are torsion field technologies, those secrets are in these machines in the rocks, which is why if Loeb accepts the challenge, everything can change on the Earth for the better, because that technology can be operated here on Earth just as well as on the moon.
Gerard in California, let's get your question in real quick, Gerard. Go ahead.
Thank you, George. Professor Hoagland, just some housekeeping here. Saturday is a solar eclipse visible around noon in Chicago.
Did I say a mistake? Lunar eclipse?
Okay, fine. Okay, number two, the visible universe boundary is about 14.3 billion parsecs, which is about 46 billion light years. So, yeah, the old, 20 billion light year radius is doubled. But I had a question, actually a comment on the guy who saw colors on the moon. I'm an optician, and that's from his refractor lenses. If you look at a bright object with these binoculars.
No, it's not. Look at the photographs. Look at items 1 and 2. And number 1, the top panel is the NASA published image. Item number 2 below it, or 1A, is simply a saturated version from the same digital file. The colors were recorded objectively by the cameras, by the film NASA took to the moon, a special film that was developed by my friend Charlie Wyckoff at EG&G. No, the colors are real. The question you should be asking, since it's not an optical illusion in Alan Bean's brain, is what would cause the colors that can be photographed? That's the crucial question.
Well, Richard, as we wrap things up, we got 40 seconds left. Tell folks about The Other Side of Midnight.
TheOtherSideOfMidnight.com. Just go there, click on the links. It'll take you to the page. The show is live Saturday and Sunday night at 9 p.m. Pacific. And on Saturday, we're doing this lunar Stonehenge with a lot of answers that we hadn't time to provide tonight. Sunday night, we're doing a show on AI, because AI is part of what NASA is going to use to prove everything we've said tonight in their new official UFO office at NASA headquarters.
Keep pounding away, my friend. Be well.
George, good night.
Richard C. Hoagland, website The Other Side of Midnight. Up next, Flying Humanoids on Coast to Coast AM.